we look forward to seeing you guys down at Equip Expo 2023, October 17th through the 20th. Guys, don't forget to use promo code Brian to register and save your guys' self 50% all summer long. Get those tickets ASAP. And by the way, we do earn a little bit of a kickback, and that goes right into supporting the show, supporting the podcast, and the YouTube channel. So thank you guys so much in advance if you happen to use our code. And don't forget to register you and each individual that you got to bring for your team. You got to register each person separately.
You're now listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Straightforward, no nonsense business advice. Completely unfiltered. Grow your business. Grow your life. Now, here's your host, Brian Fullerton.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. It is your host, Brian Fullerton here, hanging with you guys, and good morning. Well, guys, you guys absolutely know who this guest is, a returning guest, one of my all-time favorites to interview, and some of the best stories that he shares from all of our podcasts that we've ever done. The man, the myth, the legend, we got him back on the show, Mr. Paul Jamison. How are we doing this morning, brother?
It's hard to follow up. Dan, man, you're interviewing these legends, dude.
Dude, I have to just take a quick time out. That was a really, really good podcast episode. Like, just because of what Dan shared, not because of anything I added to it. But what did you think of it?
Well, I'm going to the beach this weekend, so I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm very familiar with his content, so I'm looking forward to listening to it.
But you know the name, you know the guy, right? Or know of him at least?
Yeah, buy back your time.
Dude, is that crazy or what? So
it's a big shot.
That's I think probably the biggest fish that I've got on, besides maybe like a Tom Wheelwright on the podcast. And for any of you guys listening in, I actually had about 3 or 4 of you guys shoot me DMs on Instagram and say, holy cow, holy crap, dude, this is exactly what I needed. Dude, I love Dan. I've been following him for a while. He's a big fish. If you guys didn't listen to Dan Martell's podcast episode last week, I think it was Wednesday, an absolute banger. The guy is probably worth 8-9 figures, probably 9 figures at this point. He's got 60 plus companies he's invested in. He's wrote a best-selling authored book. Actually, Paul, Service Autopilot with Jonathan Potoshnik, right? So
yep.
Before we hit record, you always get that first 10 minutes of banter. And dude, Dan just starts name dropping everybody he's worked with. And he knows tons of people in our industry that run all the software companies and all the CRMs that we all use. And he's like, oh yeah, he goes, I know Jonathan Potoshnik and many of your other friends and stuff like that. He goes, I know your industry really, really well. And I'm like, well, this is crazy, So anyway, it was super exciting time, man. But who was the big fish guy that you had on? You said he was one of your best guests a couple weeks ago. The investor guy with Warren Buffett.
Keller. Yeah, Vic Keller. So he got successfully acquired by Warren Buffett, and I'm assuming he's a multi-billionaire, but he doesn't publicly share what he earns for privacy sakes. But he's big money, and it was wild because he was interviewed by your boy Robert Kiyosaki and Charlie Kirk, and I think he was just on Dave Ramsey's studio last week. Like he's a big fish, and so that was the biggest interview I've ever done, and he was world class. So
how did you meet him?
So I have a friend, Nate May, who used to work for John Maxwell, and he kind of got John Maxwell, a leadership guy, up and going into the circuit, and he also served a author who made a book called The Maker's Diet, Jordan Rubin. So he's his skill set is like getting these guys, their book out there and getting them going into like their brand and all of that. And so eventually Vic Keller found him and hired him. So he works for Vic Keller now, and I'm friends with him. And so for a while, he's like, you ain't ready for a big fish, but when you are, I'll get you a big fish and see how you can do. And I'm like, I'm ready. Bring him on. Come on. And it was awesome. So I've never really met a billionaire before. So it was pretty cool.
Dude, that's awesome.
And if you want to get him on, I'm sure he loves our industry. I'm sure just go to his website, Vic Keller, and you can apply for to interview him. And I'm sure he'll love to be on your show. So he's awesome.
Well, what's crazy to me is how both of us started doing podcasting, as humble as can be. I mean, still as humble as can be, as you can imagine. And you were starting at the radio station, kind of doing it part-time, no real consistency to it, just kind of a fun thing to do. And, just a passion project. And then I remember literally after our first live event, LAL 2019, you came over on that Sunday, and man, we were exhausted. It was 150 people there. It's a lot of effort. And the next morning you show up kind of bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and I'm like, hey, can we do maybe 10 a.m.? I need to get a couple hours of sleep. Dude, it was so mentally, you're just depleted. You're just giving it all. I mean, just shaking hands, kissing babies, trying to share, trying to do speeches and all this other mess, and host everybody. And I remember you helped me unbox my podcast board and all this other mess. And it was such a fun, surreal experience. And Liz and I were in our living room, just as humble as can be. We didn't have a studio. We still don't have a studio. One day we'll get on the almond level, But then, fast forward just a year or two later, and we're starting to take an axe to the tree and chop this thing down, man, and get some big fish on here. And for me personally, it's not like a selfish really motivation. It's just dude, I'm able to get Dan Martell to pour into our audience. Are you kidding me? Or the Vic guy? Are you kidding me? There's some high caliber people, and for them to bring practical knowledge to help all of us lawn care business owners and guys and girls grow. I mean, to me, that's just such an awesome opportunity. So what's your thoughts on that, Paul?
Yeah. And, Vic Keller, for example, his business, we talk about building a business to sell. If you have a lawn business, you want to build it so one day you can sell it from top dollar. This guy sold his business to Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett doesn't willy-nilly buy businesses. He
Right.
researches that it's going to be a very smart investment. He's one of the best investors ever. And so anyway, just to get to talk to him, and everything he was talking about was professionalism and just getting your stuff together. It was really encouraging. So I remember the humble days. I mean, I couldn't even set your boom arm up on your microphone on your table there. We're sitting there fumbling around it was humble beginnings, man. So it's really cool to see how far this all has come. And those guys are A-list entrepreneurs. That Dan Martell, Vic Keller, like you mentioned, these guys are doing millions and millions of dollars a year in annual income, and just they're at a whole nother level. And so to get to talk to them and rub shoulders with them and have the residue of that kind of rub off on our industry, it's excellent, because the folks that are listening, like you said, the rising boat ship thing going up, we're all going up together, getting to talk to these big fish.
Yeah, amen. And I'm really grateful to have that caliber of people on. It's not like an ego stroke for me. I couldn't care less. I just want the info. I just want the content. I just want to learn. I'm hungry to continue to change my life,
Yeah, and there's a saying, maybe I got this from you. I don't know who I heard this from someone in the podcast land, but they said your network is your net worth. And so getting to be networked with Dan Martells and Vic Kellers, and just getting those doors open, you never know how that will go somewhere in the future where there'll be another connection. So, amen. It's powerful.
Well, one last quick funny story I'll share, and then we'll get into it a little bit, but even more. But I yesterday morning, so Emmy, you guys know we got a daughter named Emmy. She's 21 months, almost 22 months, and we got gymnastics now at 4 p.m. on Mondays. We've got music class at 10:30 a.m. on Wednesdays, and I've been able to take her to all these things. And music's Emmy and I's special time. Liz goes with me to gymnastics. So Wednesday morning, I go into gymnastics, or music class with Emmy, and we're in a circle. This is a great paint the picture, but this is something that's been a passion project for me, is to get back my time. I was extremely time poor the last 2 years, just burning the candle at both ends, and figuring out how to grow a company, guys. Probably a lot of you guys can relate, whether you're owner operator, or maybe you got 4 or 5 guys, or 25 guys, and you're just trying to put small business systems in place, and just get a little bit of time back, and maybe not be stuck in the field as much. Or if you're in the field, it's by choice, or you're doing high ticket items and very profitable work. Anyway, it was kind of like this surreal moment the last couple months. I told my guys, I will pay you anything to give me the time back so I can make sure that I can go to music class with my daughter. Like I couldn't care less about making money. People think we're always about hustling the dollar, and I'm like, actually, that's why I think I just really resonated with Dan Martell. I just wanted to get my time back. And so let me just share this funny story, because I was at a music class where they're 10 minutes early, trying to just, get comfortable in the environment, that kind of deal. And Emmy's running around. And so I played the podcast of Dan Martell. I wanted to listen to my own show and hear what I even said, 3 days prior with Dan. And Emmy literally just fell asleep in the car seat, and we're driving in. And so we get to music class. She's not like totally awake, she's just kind of rubbing the crusties out of her little 20-minute cat nap. And I'm like, yeah, I just had this awesome podcast guest on, and I'm super fired up. And Emmy's just kind of waking up. And so there's like 10 other moms, in the in the music class circle. I'm the only dad there, the only dad that's ever been there for 2 years, and or for a year and a half. And it's just funny because the one girl that leads the class, her name's Maya, younger girl, she's like 22, and she goes out, what's the name of your podcast? And I go, it's nothing. It's the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. And she goes, Unfiltered? That sounds cool. And I'm like, yeah, thanks. I whatever. And I'm just like, just playing it off. I'm not here to like pitch the podcast, right? And then all the moms start like going, you have a podcast? That's the craziest thing. Oh my God, what's the name of the podcast? I go, it's a business podcast. We have some different people on. I had a really good guest on, and one lady's like, I'm a self-help junkie. I love listening to podcasts. Who'd you have on? I go, Dan Martell. She goes, I know Dan Martell. I'm like, she goes, he has a bunch of books. And I go, I literally had him on the show 2 days ago. And she's like, oh my God, we have, so like all these stay-at-home moms, God bless them. It's just like totally different environment. But long story short, I get back from music class and Liz is like, how'd it go? And I'm like, Emmy was a terror. It's a shocker. All the other kids are 2 and they're running around like crazy, and that's what they do. But I'm like, I think I recruited 9 new listeners to the podcast from the mothers group, and then plus Brian over here. And so I'm trying to grow the podcast any way, shape, or form. You know what I'm saying, Paul? But I think we have 9 new stay-at-home moms that are listening to the podcast because of Dan Martell. So it is what it is. We're growing any which way we can. So that's what I got, man. What any thoughts on that, or what?
Well, I have a similar story. I was at a cookout over the weekend, and there's a high school girl there and her mom. It was a bunch of other people, but the high school girl comes up to me, and her and her mom are talking to me. She's like, I got my mom listening to your podcast. She's like, I make her listen to it when she's in the car with me. And I'm like, my demographic isn't high school girls. Like,
right.
Maybe a high school boy who has a lawn care business. But I was like, why do you listen to my podcast? They just thought it was the coolest thing ever. And some things to consider as I make episodes in the future. It's like I'm just mindful that there are other people out there listening. So
yeah.
Anyway, it was kind of humbling that I had this 50-something-year-old woman and her daughter. Therefore, I don't know what she is, maybe 45, but they've been driving around the car listening to me. So
isn't that wild?
That was pretty funny.
It's like,
go ahead.
It's like having like a 25-year-old, like you said, single guy or, young married couple or something like that listening to the show and learn X's and O's. Like, of course, sure. That's awesome. Very grateful. Appreciate it. But I'm not like going into music class and leading with, hey, what do you do for a living? Oh, I run a top 200 business entrepreneurship podcast. Like, actually, if you guys know me, and many of you guys listening and do, I'm like, yeah, I run a lawn and landscape company. We don't even talk about our social media. Like it's like a closet thing that I do. And it's funny because it's decent sized, following, if you will. I say that humbly, but it's like at the same point, we're not like leading with that. And it's not like I'm not proud of it. It's just, I don't know. Like I don't try to let it consume my life. I'm like, yeah, we run a lawn and landscape business and blah, blah, blah. And we got some social media stuff we do on the side. And so it's just kind of funny. Like, you just pick up random listeners everywhere you go. And that's mostly because of you guys all listening to both my podcast and Paul's podcast, sharing the show authentically. And it is wild, like how far it reaches out there. And I always wonder like how far it reaches out there. And so any which way, I guess if you guys listening to the show, you guys are part of this crazy, weird, funny story and progress that is both my show and Paul's show. And my show is a derivative of Paul, taking a leap of faith and going full time in his podcast and starting a show, obviously. And if he didn't, we definitely wouldn't be here. And 500 plus episodes later, man. So it's absolutely wild. So let's do this, Paul. I want to get a little bit more life updates from you, man. We got some cool announcements that I know that you're excited about sharing with us. We've been trying to get you on the show for a couple of weeks, and I literally have one day that I do all my podcasting. It's on Thursdays, and so the next availability was actually about 2 weeks out since your new release, little teaser, I think is what you call it, Paul. So if you guys want to hang tight for just a quick second, we're gonna hear from today's show sponsors announcements, and if Paul, you got about 10 more minutes, we'll talk about your new.
Yeah, that works.
All right, brother, it's gonna be awesome. So let's do this really quick. We're gonna hear from today's show sponsors, and we're gonna come right on back.
We've got the goods. If you're looking for one place to find all the gear, you need to jump on Ballard-Inc.com. With over 30 years in the industry and 23 years selling high-quality products, we've got your back. From mower gear, trailer racks, mower blades, safety gear, and so much more, you'll find everything you need to maximize your efforts and protect your gear in one place. And let's not forget about the new Carbide Tungsten Gold blades that'll have you wondering why it took so long to get these to market. Make sure to use Brian's 10 to save 10% at checkout. We've got a bunch of new gear coming soon, so make sure you're following Brian and Ballard to stay in the loop. Head over to Ballard-Inc.com today and get geared up.
Hey guys, it's Brian.
And Liz.
Hey guys, we can't wait to see you at Together in the Trades, the summit for couples in business and marriage conference that we're co-hosting with Caleb and Brittany Allman. Guys, it's going to be going on July 14th and the 15th, and we can't wait to see you there. Liz, what else can they expect?
Well, this year we're turning it into a 2-day event. So you'll have a half-day sessions both days, and then there's time for activities and adventures and, coming back together in the evening as a big group. So a little bit more of like a retreat focus this year. Definitely out of, kind of our comfort zone being out there in the mountains, and it's the perfect place to have a retreat at the end of our busy season.
Guys, we can't wait to see you there. Togetherinthetrades.com. Got a handful of tickets left, but we really hope to see you, your significant other. It's going to be a great time. Come strengthen your relationship, work on your marriage, and learn how to grow your business together as a power couple. We can't wait to see you guys there. Togetherinthetrades.com. All right, Paul, well, we are going to jump right on back into it. Super excited about having the man, the myth, the legend, Paul Jamison back on. Actually, really quick, Paul, because we just kind of rolled into it. A lot of new listeners to the show this time of year. You know how it goes. And for people just joining into the program, we've got returning guests, or we've got online one. So I don't do it as well as you do with your radio voice and broadcasting excellence. But why don't you get these guys up to speed, though, and let them know who you are and your background in case maybe they haven't heard of you.
Yeah, so I started in the lawn business in 2011, and my first few years, I made about every mistake you could imagine. My equipment wasn't what it should have been. My prices were well below what it should have been. My marketing wasn't as airtight as it needed to be, and I was just making a whole bunch of mistakes, but I fell in love with the industry, and probably about 2013, I found this online community. There's a guy named Greg Chisholm. He was filming himself out mowing these little $30 cuts, and I fell in love with that. And then, hey, what's up, babe? Good. I was just talking about you on my podcast. The high school girls that I was talking about just came to the pool.
Oh, your podcast? Oh, you're on the phone. Oh, I thought you had your mixer pool side. I'm like, what?
No, yeah,
but obviously you're on the phone. Maybe it's like Dora the Explorer carrying your backpack around. I don't know, maybe, but you got your cell phone. That makes more sense.
Yeah, I'm just sitting out at the pool. But so long story short, I found this guy named Greg Chisholm, and he was sitting there. He was talking about the same things I was going through about these PETA customers, and it rains, and then you're like, well, I'm not going to mow in the rain because that's going to leave tire marks. It's going to be messy. And then you get a phone call, and the customer's like, where are you at? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not the only person that happened to. And so I just connected with this guy named Greg, and then in the recommendation center, I saw Naylor Taliaferro, Lawn Care Rookie, and B&B Lawn Care, and Keith Calfast, and I started following these guys, and I just fell in love with this community. And I learned from Keith to raise my worth, raise my prices, and I learned from Naylor about route density, and I don't know what I learned from Blake, but I liked watching him, and I learned how to strike from Blake. But awesome. So anyway, I fell in love with this community, and I actually turned the corner in my business, and I started doing a lot better job. And so then while I was doing all that, I was actually working at a radio station, 2014, 15, 16, 17. So we joke about excellence in broadcasting, but I really did have a formal training in how to professionally broadcast. And so I had told Naylor and Payjack about this little skill set that I had, and social media hadn't popped off like it did now with like short form content. And I just hadn't found my spot where I could share my story. And I love the audio platform, and podcasting wasn't popular then like it is now, but Naylor and John were like, dude, you should start a podcast. And so I did in 2018. I started Green Tree Podcast. I started sharing my lawn care story. And as I say, the rest is history. We're coming up on 1,000 episodes now. And in the meantime, I actually wrote some books just kind of sharing my principles that I've learned from interviewing others and from my own entrepreneurial experiences. So that's the summary in a nutshell. And the most recent book is called Winning Strategies for a Thriving Landscaping Business. It's the lawn care advantage. And I actually learned that from our friend, Dr. Frank. He calls it the slight edge advantage. If you have two lines on a sheet of paper, it might look like they're identical, but if one is just like a little smidge of a degree difference, over time, those lines will like if you start off in California and you're both going to like Baltimore, but one has a little slight trajectory difference, it will end up in like New York City or Boston over time. And so it's called the slight edge advantage. So I wrote the lawn care advantage, which is basically like, if you want an advantage, make these small little tweaks in your business and you'll stand out from the competition. So
that's awesome.
That's what the new book's all about. And honestly, it is way better than my previous 3 books. It's not even close. It's by far the best book that I've written. I feature 13 entrepreneurs in it and their stories, as well as just a bunch of principles and things of that nature. And so I'm really, really, really proud of the information. On Amazon right now, it's only $19.99, and you will get. I could sell it for $300, and you'd still get an ROI out of this book. And obviously, I'm not going to price it at that, but it's an incredible value if you want expert insights and real life success stories and just motivation. So,
dude, that's awesome.
The lawn care advantage.
That's awesome. Well, I know you have a couple other books in the lineup as well, and some folks really do like learning from an actual paperback book. I know I do. I literally, one of my goals, one of my dreams, I'll just share candidly, like, was to have a library in my house one day. And I didn't want it to be anything, some fanciful, mahogany, oak, wood. I don't know, whatever, folks. But like, dark walnut, maple type looking, grandiose thing in some like, $10 million mansion. It didn't need to be anything fancy. I mean, I just wanted a couple rows to present the books that I've read and to be able to go back through them and just sometimes like just have some quiet time in a quiet space and just like a nice high back leather chair to just read. I mean, how many times have you guys I don't know if you guys can relate listening in, but when's the last time you just got quiet time to read? Like undisturbed, uninterrupted, 20, 30 minutes, you got a glass of water or you got a Coke or, some alcoholic beverage if you're into that, whatever. And just had 30 minutes of quiet time to read in like a dim lit solitude kind of place. That's something that I've really wanted for a long while is just a small sanctuary. And we're building just a small library, if you will, downstairs in the home. And I heard somebody say, and it's just one of those like guru moments, but somebody said like broke people have big screen TVs and wealthy people have libraries. And
wow,
it's just one of those things where I told Liz, as we're designing the home, I said, hey, weird kind of a dream, but if this is like our forever home and we want to kind of go all in and spend an arm and a leg doing it, I said, would you mind, catering to a library in our home? And she said, absolutely. She goes, absolutely want to not only do that for us personally, for our own self-development, but also to put a good example forth, for our children that mommy and daddy, valued personal time and education and working on themselves and personal growth than just, how big of a flat panel TV we can make as the mainstay in the upstairs living room or the downstairs basement living room, if that makes sense. So I just go back to full circle to, congratulations on releasing another book. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of effort. But I know it's going to help a lot of people that choose to buy it, that choose to pick it up, and take 20 minutes a night, take a pen to it or a highlighter to it, and take notes and learn how to grow a more successful business. That's just another option. Are you going to put it on audio book? I would imagine that'll probably be the obvious evolution.
What day is this episode going live? I didn't know how if you're there's a delay or if it's right away or
it should be dropping on a Monday episode, so it'll be this next week Monday. But real time as people listen, it'll be on Monday.
You're gonna put me out on Memorial Day.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, big
I'll take
listener.
it.
We're working that day, so don't think I'm cheaping you out on the downloads.
Hey, I see how it goes.
I asked my guys. I said, "Are you?" Because I gave them the option. I think legally I have to, but I said, and they all literally were like, "Are you kidding?" They're like, "We'd rather have a Friday, Saturday, Sunday off and just work till 2 or 3 on Monday, and then celebrate, if you will, Memorial Day." And I said, awesome. So they all want to work a full day, and they'll probably cut early at 2:00. But for all those guys that are still working on the holiday, that's totally fine. No big deal.
Yeah. Now the audiobook should be out by Memorial Day. Mr. Producer is the narrator of the audiobook. So if you want to support him, get the audiobook because he gets 50% of the royalties.
Cool.
That's how that works. So Brian, you narrated your own, so you get all the royalties. You're the author and the narrator. But you made fun of me so bad for reading my audiobook. So I was like, you know what? I'll just support Mr. Producer, let him, make some royalties. And so he did an excellent job narrating that. And the way it works with audiobooks is you first have to publish your book on Amazon. So the Lawn Care Advantage is on Amazon. Once it's officially on Amazon, then you can actually apply for the audiobook. So we're in that process right now. And it was about a couple weeks ago. They're like, within 10 business days, it should be up, and we're right around that 10th business day, and it's still not up. So I'm imagining today or tomorrow it will go up. So by Memorial Day, it should be on audiobook. And again, Mr. Producer's the narrator. So if you guys want to kind of support him, listen to the audiobook. That way he'll get a royalty.
He's got a great radio voice, obviously, too. So it's an easy listen to. Most of our writing style and talking style is pretty relatable anyway. It's not very high level. Like Dr. Frank, if he wrote a book, I would probably struggle, to be honest with you. I read Mark Levin's The Liberty Amendments. I don't know. Have you ever read that book, Paul, or heard of it?
No, sir. I've heard of it, not read it.
It's a goodie, but man, I swear you have to be a legal scholar to literally read it. It's a very intellectual read. I can't do well with books like that, but if you give me Rich Dad Poor Dad and it's parallel paths of teaching and stories, then I'm all about that life. And that's what I tried to do with our book with 0 to 100K. It was like, tell my story and just give some teaching examples along the way. So that being said, if Mr. Producer is the one narrating, I'm sure it'll be a pretty good listen.
Yeah, and the other thing I did is I took 13 podcast episodes. So, before I recorded the podcast episode, I told the guest, I said, listen, I'm going to highlight your story in my book. So let's just fireside chat for 45 minutes, share your story, start to finish, what you learned along the way, and then I'm going to turn that into a chapter of the book. And so it's like listening to 13 podcasts in hyper-focused, super turbo speed because, we kind of cut out the fluff and the jokes and the banner and just get straight to here's how you started your business. Here's how you grew. Here's the key mistakes you made. Here's what you learned from those. And so there's 13 of those and they're all different. There's your boy, Mike Garvey's in there, who's a side hustle champion. You have the big companies, the North Point Outdoors of the world. You have the mid-tier companies, the Almond Landscapes, the Jeremy Jacobs of the world, hovering around that $800,000, $900,000, $1 million range. And then you have unique stories of folks that, for example, Andrew Martinez. He had multiple crews, and then he actually downsized. This year, he's back to solo. And so I literally, it's like going to a restaurant and seeing a menu. There's a little bit of everything. I just don't show you the solo and proud guy. I show you him. I show you the mid-tier business. If you want to do $800,000 a year with multiple crews, here's what that looks like. If you want to do $15 million a year, like North Point Outdoors, here's what that looks like. And with all of them, there's pros and cons. There's pros and cons to being Johnny Moe, style, solo and proud. There's pros and cons to being an Almond Landscape LLC. And there's pros and cons to scaling and doing 100 employees and, close to 20 million a year. So I think it will give, especially if you're just new into the industry, you can kind of understand the pros and cons of what you're getting into, because there's a lot of bad advice out there where people tell you got to do it their way or the highway. But the truth is any of those models work. And I also have a story of Phil's Lawn Care. He's full-time into social media now. He went from Ace Hardware, started his lawn business, which he only now does 1 day a week. And the other days of the week, he's making social media content, making a full-time income off that. So I literally show you all the ways that you can be in this industry and make money, whether you're solo, multiple crews, or going with the social media perspective and all the opportunity that's out there with social media. So it's pretty exciting.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, and at the end of the day, I mean, let me say this. It's not you don't, but you can participate however you want. Some people have, like you said, small businesses, big businesses, medium-sized businesses, just to reiterate what you just said. But some guys, they want to start a parts business, a supply business, an invention type of business. Like, think practical, like Cujo Yardware or Dawson Manufacturing with my boy Nick Carlson. Like, you can participate in any single way you want. I mean, there's Robbie who made Darwin's grip, and I don't know the last number, but I know what Ballard sells of that alone, and you can sell tens of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars worth of, Darwin's grips, or I forget the guy's name, Troy, maybe, with the comfort trims. I forget his name. I'm sorry, Tony. I don't know. He sent me some comfort trims. I talked to him last week. He's like, "You want to do a video?" I go, "No." I said, "I have no time," but I said, "Sure," because he's a small business guy, and they're like literally sewing them in his garage in a rented space, and they're just trying to start a small business. But how many people love the comfort trims is beyond me. I was like, "There's no way you're selling that many of those." He goes, "Dude, I'm telling you, it's just it's a weird in a respectful way, like inventions and products." And I don't know, I think it's just Bedell, he made the salt sling, and just different intellectual things that you guys can do, and patents and stuff like that. It is actually pretty utility patent was the word I was looking for. So you can participate in the green industry any which way you want, and we'd love to have all of you guys. It's such a fun industry. It can be stressful, there's no doubt about it. We are akin to employees and weather and equipment. It has its challenges working outdoors, but at the end of the day, I don't think there's a more fun, robust individual community that you can participate in and create an income, I should say, out of it. So I love it. Well, hey, Paul, let's do this real quick. We got about 2 more minutes, and then I got to shift gears. The wifey ordered some, just to be honest with you, some Wendy's and 10-piece nugget meal. I'm going like ham today, dude. I was knocking down weeds like crazy. I got a couple customers. We have about 20 hours a month of commercial bed prep and maintenance that we have to just maintain with weeding and trimming down weeds and, pulling weeds and all that other mess. So I was doing a bunch of that this morning, and then get to hang out with you. I got a couple other podcasts and coaching calls today. So it's just like go. But where's things going for you in the Green Industry podcast? The reason I ask is I heard a podcast episode this morning actually with you and Jason Creel, and you're still figuring out the future, man. So if anybody wants to think warm thoughts or send prayers up, where are you taking the show on the road, man?
I actually listened to that episode. I listened to my own episodes just so I could see where I was flat, where it was boring, and how I could make it better.
Sure.
And I was listening to that episode. I was like, man, this is depressing. I was talking about how burnt out I am, how much I hate my life. I was like, I don't know.
Well, I get it. It wasn't a bad episode, not by any means.
Well,
but
Jason was asking me the question. I was like, this is my podcast, and Jason's sitting here having a therapy session for me.
I was pulling for Alabama. If I peanut gallery weighing in, I was like, and nothing against the other couple options that you came up with, but I just feel like you seem like you would find a better home base in Bama than maybe the other options out there. But
yeah, go ahead.
No, that's it. I was just saying, where are you taking the show? Where are you moving to, and what's going on in your life, man? Give us the personal update.
Yeah. So July 10, I'm moving. I don't know where I'm moving to. Alabama is definitely in play, and I think from a content creation standpoint, it would be a big win for the community because Jeremiah Jennings and Jason Creel are both consistently creating content and want to consistently create content. And so I'm sure you understand, Brian, like there's not that many people around who get what we do. And so to actually be within 3 or 5 miles from a couple guys that are making content. Now, granted, Jeremiah does audio and Jason does kind of the YouTube thing, but I think that would be fun to have friends that like, it would be fun to do those collaborations and so there's a possibility I might move there. I might move to Florida. I might move to South Carolina. I might stay put for a few months in Atlanta before I jet because there's a lot of traveling I have. And our airport here just makes it easy. So that's all to be determined, but I will need to. You're
not considering Ohio or the great state of Michigan? I mean, come on, there's a lot of opportunity here.
Yeah, I sowed my time in there, and it's just too cold in those states. And I love being down south for sure. Atlanta is one of the biggest cities in the world, or at least in the USA, and it's just a little too much for me. I think I need a little bit slower pace of life in this next season, because the hustle and the bustle, it's glamorous at first, but after a decade or so, it kind of took a toll on me. So I think my time here has expired.
I'm all for it, man, and rooting for you, because Liz and I were in the same boat. Where we live right now, super grateful, super thankful. We just rent an apartment condo thing over here. Nothing crazy, but where we're moving to is 25 minutes west, and gets a little bit more country. Not a lot country, but a little bit more country, a little bit more rural for sure. And we couldn't agree more. Like, we just want to just have a personal life be a little bit more slower, a little bit more chill, a little less, hustle and bustle. And we want to definitely enjoy family time a little bit more as our family starts to grow. So I'm right there with you, man. I think a lot of people have really gravitated towards that the last 36 months, kind of reprioritizing things with, the changing world that we're all living in these days, ever since the great pandemic, So that's awesome, man. Well, good for you. Well, hopefully we'll stay tuned. I'm always listening into the show, and always looking forward to those updates, and we're rooting for you, man. So hope the next 6-8 weeks goes well for you. Any other last announcements or updates? But I wanted to just highlight the book launch, and really congratulate you on that. I know the show's growing well. So what else you got?
Yeah, super quick.
Yeah.
I've been filming a lot of these episodes and throwing them up on YouTube. So you can check that out on Green Industry Podcast on YouTube. I know you and I talked off air, and like, podcasting clips just flop in the algorithm. Like, it's so frustrating. Like, you can do like a tall grass video and it'll get a bunch of views, and you like sit here and have an amazing podcast where you guys share all these great nuggets and it gets like 2 views. So from an algorithmic perspective, it's not like the smart move, but I just love podcasting. So I have been throwing like the podcast up there and video clips of it. So if you guys want to support the YouTube channel, we're at a measly 8,000 subs, Brian, but I am consistently publishing there. So check that out.
That's awesome.
And you understand how this algorithm works and how it's not favoring this content, but I like making it, so I've been throwing it up there.
No, I literally complain once a month. I just air it out with Liz, and Liz and I both understand. Like, all the views on YouTube get vacuum cleaned by mowing tall grass videos, and that's awesome. I'm excited for those people. Couldn't care less. Not my MO, not my style, but at the end of the day, good for them. I couldn't care less. They bring people into the ecosystem. The sun doesn't always shine on the same person forever, so it doesn't really matter. I'm grateful and glad for those people, but I'm still, hanging in there. We're running a million views a month, and I'm totally fine with that. We're grateful, and for the people that do watch, then I'm grateful for every single person that comes in and gets to enjoy the content that we put out. So I'm right there with you, man. Sometimes it's not the big views that make the difference anyway. It's the maybe you want to get 100 views or 1,000 views. That's the impact.
Yeah, I've been putting up clips from you led Energize, so you're actually featured in my clips. I made a whole bunch of clips from Energize and like shorts with Mike Andes and Blake Albertson, sharing these like crazy business nugget little clips, and they get like 300 views, and then well, anyway, I'm just saying I am posting the content, so go consume it. It's good, and it's on Green Industry Podcast on YouTube.
Hey, what one last thing, outside of the podcast thing, you and Jason are doing your guys' event down in Alabama. Yeah, dude, I'm working on like 4 hours of sleep, kinda. I get like 2.5 hours and then another 2.5 hours. That's Liz and I's sleep schedule right now for the last 3 weeks. So Liz and I are like space cadets anyway, but like, so anyway, I'm like, wait a minute, there's one other thing I'm trying to remember with Paul, but talk about it for a minute or two, because not everybody can make it to our live event in November. Just maybe the date, the region, maybe they don't like me, but they like you. That's fine. Look, I know I'm not the easiest guy to like. I'm very, I can be very polarizing. The truth is the truth, so I think that's really where people, it cuts. I don't think you hate her like me. I think you hate her like the truth, and that's on you. But that's real talk right there. But maybe you don't like me. Go hang out with Paul and Jason. Maybe you live down south and you can't buy a $500 plane ticket economically. Dude, I totally get that. Respect that. But maybe they're a 2-hour car drive, and you're down in Bama or south of the continental U.S. But I really quick while we got it, because you guys are doing a live event in January. When is it?
February. It's February of 2024, and you were a keynote speaker at the second event that Jason did. This will be the fourth one. And so if you remember that room, it's at Matthews Manor. It's a small little room. So it's not, you guys go big and
it's a beautiful place.
And Novi.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place.
Right. But it's a lot smaller of a venue than all the other events in the industry. So we're only going to be able to have 300 seats. And once all of those sell out, we're not going to do like any overflow. It's the first 300 people to sign up get to go. And so the registration went open about a week and a half ago. And thankfully, they're going like hotcakes. So once the thing sells out, the first 300 people to come will be the first 300 or the only 300 people that will be there. We got Alan Hain coming to speak. We have Baylor and Caleb are coming. Jeremiah Jenkins or what's Caleb calling Jeremiah Jenkins. That's an inside joke with Caleb, but Jeremiah Jennings obviously lives there, and he'll be there, and it's going to be a good old time. So it will be, once it sells out, it's not like we can add more room. It's going to be limited to 300 seats. So
that's
you
awesome.
can get those tickets at greenindustrypodcast.com. And I tried to tell Jason to raise his price. He wanted to be very reasonable, and it's only $197 right now, which I think is underpriced, but it's his event. So he didn't take my 2 cents on the price because I'm getting ready to pay $1,000 to do a coaching call, Brian. You know that's true.
Oh yeah.
So I pay big money for stuff, and I'm trying to tell Jason, you could sell this ticket for probably like $297, $397, $497. It's no, let's do $197. All right, Jason.
I'll tell you, and it's not a pitch to get you guys to go to the events to make money. I actually, if you really know, I'm always fearful of doing a job cost at the end of it. I'm like, I don't even want to know. Cause we just spend money to put them on. They do make a couple bucks, but it's not like it's our bread and butter. There's no way. If that's the case, I wouldn't have been weed whapping down a bunch of weeds this morning. I'd be zooming around in my Lambo on the coast. California's coast or the Great Lakes coast. But one thing I did want to say is, these things are a lot of effort to put on, guys. So please take advantage of them. We should have another 300-400 people at LAL this year in November. I'm going to be dropping all the nuggets and all the announcements here in a couple of weeks. We've got some really some great people that are coming this year. I'm really excited about that. And whether you go to our event or Paul's event or Equip Expo, I know there's a couple of things that float around, which is awesome, but I would encourage you guys to be intentional with your investment of going to these things. Don't just go to be a groupie, go to learn, grow to grow. But I'll say this candidly, there's other events and it's not any influencer thing. So relax. It's no shade on anybody else, but there are other events that get put on by other big name people, non-influencer people that have been around for a long time. And I can't speak for Lawn Care Life Conference. I know it's a great conference. I've been to the one that Jason put on. It's awesome. It was great. But I will tell you, between the ticket price that some of these other events put on, $1,500, $2,500, and outside of that, the lineup of guest speakers that come in, I will 100% guarantee you they don't hold a candle to what we're putting on with LAL. And I would even imagine with the Lawn Care Life Conference. Okay, folks? So some of these other companies and some of these other events, they're just old hat. And that's fine, but they've been doing it for 20 years and can barely get 400 or 500 people to show up for a ticket price that's 5 times the amount. And we've been doing this with a shoestring budget, putting it together with bubblegum and duct tape. And we can get 400 people to show up in Michigan in November and 200-300 people like you guys are aiming for at the Lawn Care Life Conference. There's a reason for it. And it's not just because they're social media guru people, okay, folks? Real business, real advice, not old hat stuff. Learn it from your grandpa who, hasn't been in the field for 30 years. Okay. So anyways, I just want to tell you guys, it's a tremendous value. Don't take it for granted. Make an effort to get out to at least one thing a year. I always suggest going to LAL and then Equip. And maybe if you guys want to go to Lawn Care Life Conference and Equip, that's your prerogative. That's awesome too. So I just wanted to make sure we got that really quick on the tail end of the podcast, Paul, because I know you guys are really excited about that.
Yeah, thanks so much, Brian. And I was talking to Tracy, and she's like home making the food for all the meals. She's like, well, for lunch meat, we'll get it here. We'll shop here. This is like a grassroots bootstrapping. She's home making your lunches, and
that's awesome.
It's going to be awesome. So they just have a really family feel, and I'm beyond humbled to get to help them they're great people. So I'm really looking forward to that. And echoing what you say about your event, Brian, I've been to every single one. I've been to all 4 of yours. I go to Equip every year. I practice what I preach here. I go to all these events, and like I said earlier, your network is your net worth. And this is how you build your network, is you go be around other like-minded entrepreneurs, and you exchange phone numbers, you cultivate a relationship. So get to as many of these events that make sense with your geography and schedule and finances and all that.
Amen. Yeah, I love it. All right, man. Well, any final thoughts? If not, we'll button it up. But
go get my book on Amazon. If you prefer to support Mr. Producer and you want the audiobook experience, the audiobook should be live as you're listening to this. If not, check back tomorrow. It will be live, next 24, 48 hours. It's called The Lawn Care Advantage: Winning Strategies for a Thriving Landscaping Business. And as always, Brian, man, you get on my how do I say it? Iron sharpens iron. Like, I don't have a wife like you. I don't have 2 kids like you. I'm not dreaming of building a dream house like you. And I'll be talking to our friend Brett Goodyear or someone else is like, how does Brian Fullerton get more done in a day than me? And I don't have none of it, like all the stuff you have. You are such a go-getter, and you kick my butt every time I talk to you. You're so diligent as a small business owner, and you have no idea how much your passion for excellence in business makes me a better person. So
that's
thank
awesome.
you for always pushing me to be better, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad it's inspiring. Not the intent, but if it motivates the next guy, man, then awesome. Like, rock and roll, dude. I appreciate it.
No excuses. It's like you're running circles around us, and it's like, all right, if Brian can do it, no excuses. Like get to work and work hard, and you're a huge inspiration.
Well, thanks.
Well done.
Thanks, man. I appreciate. Well, I mean, and it goes right back at you. We wouldn't have a podcast if it wasn't for your help. We wouldn't be able to write our first book. Little tease there, first book, hint, this fall for number 2. I wouldn't be able to have done those without your help as well, man. So it's right back at you, 100%, dude. And I'm like, man, Paul's crushing it. He's got this going on. I'm like, no excuses. Even if you got, we did a podcast 2 years ago, it was reasons or excuses. And people are like, well, you can't do all this stuff because you got kids, and those are excuses. And I'm like, that's exactly the reason why I need to do this stuff. So any which way, but it's just a little mental shift. And for all you guys listening in that are trying to take it to the front and keep the hammer down, I'm right there with you guys. And another great encourager and motivator, my friend Paul. If you guys want to go down all things the rabbit hole of the Green Industry Podcast, where can they find you again? One more time, Paul, and we'll button it up, bro.
Yeah, Green Industry Podcast. We're on YouTube. We're on the audio platforms, and most importantly, go take a listen to the Lawn Care Advantage: Winning Strategies for a Thriving Landscaping Business on Amazon and on Audible.
Yeah, and I'll say this one more time. If you guys want to go pick up the physical paperback book on Amazon, fantastic. I'm going to be candid with you guys. If you guys have an Audible membership like I do, and you got 8-9 extra audio credits in the queue because, we're coming off the tail end of winter, and maybe you weren't listening to as many audiobooks in November through whatever March, maybe you got 6 or 7 extra credits that have kind of racked up. You quote unquote, you've already paid for them, if you guys know what I'm saying. And if they're just sitting there and you get that monthly update, like you have 7 audio credits left. Hey, Go download 1 or 2 of Paul's books. Go download my book. Burn a credit on a Kalfas book. Like, until you get the next book with Buy Back Your Time with Dan Martell. Burn a couple credits. I mean, help us out. I mean, that puts a whopping $5 in our pocket, I guess. But get it, listen to it, and I think they're easy, fun reads. And like I said, if you don't want to burn $20 on Amazon, I get it. But if you already got your audio credits, go get those and listen to them. And no excuses when you're on the mower 7-8 hours a day. You can burn through 1 or 2 books in a week. It's no issue. And so just a quick little helpful hint and tip there. So, all right, well, that's what we got today. Paul, thanks again for taking time to be on the show, brother. Look forward to catching up with you here before you know it.
See you, Brian. Thanks for your time.
You bet, bud. All right, guys. Well, let's kick it back over to Marty, Mr. Producer. We'll button this thing up. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Ballard Innovative Products is a full line of gear for the lawn and landscape professional, weekend warrior, or home and garden enthusiast. From mower gear, safety gear, trailer racks, equipment securement, equipment servicing tools, chute blockers, snow removal tools, and much more to make you efficient, effective, safe, and profitable in the field. Be sure to check out the Ballard-Inc.com website to help dominate and elevate your business this season. With over 23 years selling accessories and 30 years in the business, we're sure we've got something you can't live without. And new to 2023, we have the Hybrid Gold Blades. These are the most versatile, longest-lasting blades on the market. Check Ballard-Inc.com often as there's new gear being added all the time. Don't forget to use Brian's 10 to save 10%. Stay safe and keep grinding. Ballard. Hi, I'm Mr. Producer, and one more thing. If you're looking to stay up to date with the latest trends and insights in the world of lawn care, then you need our free email newsletter. It's delivered 3 times a week and includes a Monday motivational to kick off your week, a Wednesday what's new to keep you informed, and a Friday weekly recap of all the content we put out. Join our mailing list to stay connected to the world of lawn care and get exclusive access to the latest and greatest from Fullerton Unfiltered and Brian's Lawn Maintenance. Don't miss out on this opportunity to stay ahead of the curve and elevate your lawn care game. Sign up now with the link we've provided in the show description.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast with Brian Fullerton. We hope you enjoyed this production. If so, please consider leaving us a 5-star review for the show. While the techniques and ideas presented here are designed to help you grow a more successful and profitable business, no one can guarantee these results for you. We want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not easy, and the ideas presented here are just the opinions of Brian Fullerton and his respective guests. No one can guarantee success for you. That being said, we hope the ideas presented here help you and motivate you to go on out there and crush it with your own business.
Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.
This has been a Brian Fullerton and Mr. Producer production.